Hello and welcome to another Bible in the News. This is Matt Davies joining you from Ramat on the eastern side of the Sea of Galilee in Israel. The top stories on the news stations over here are linked to events occurring in the Gaza Strip and their connections with the Sudan in Africa. Israel previously governed the Gaza Strip after they had gained control of it in the Six-Day War of 1967. In an attempt to make peace, the Israeli leaders signed the Oslo Accord in 1993, which gave control of Gaza to the Palestinian National Authority, the PNA. Israeli forces then left the area, but peace was not forthcoming as the Palestinians started producing and firing Qassam rockets over the border into Israel. In 2005, Israel forced its citizens to withdraw their settlements from the area. Again, this was an attempt for peace, which failed. And in 2006, Hamas, a Palestinian organization, came to power. This group is considered a terrorist organization by the United States, the European Union, Canada, Japan, and of course Israel. The intense rocket fire from Gaza upon Israel has been a massive problem for Israel. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, reported that over 8,000 rockets have been fired into Israel from Gaza since 2001. This week, on Wednesday the 24th of October 2012, the IDF blog featured a report which highlighted the escalation of recent attacks. In only 14 hours, they report, 73 rockets were launched from Gaza by Hamas and other terrorist organizations and hit southern Israel. 2 workers were injured severely when a rocket hit a farm near Kasufim, and 3 other civilians were injured lightly. The BBC on Thursday reported that a truce had been met. They recorded that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, had said, "We didn't ask for this escalation and didn't initiate it, but if it continues, we are prepared to embark on a far more extensive penetrating operation." Now, one recent item of news connected with the problem of Gaza is a recent airstrike in the Sudan on an arms factory. The BBC website issued a report on Wednesday entitled "Sudan Blames Israel for Khartoum Arms Factory Blast." The report said, quote, "The Sudanese government says it believes Israel was responsible for explosions at a military factory in the capital Khartoum on Tuesday. Culture and Information Minister Ahmed Bilal Osman said 4 Israeli planes attacked the factory and 2 people were killed. Israel has not commented. Sudan has blamed Israel for such attacks in the past. Correspondents say Israel believes weapons are being smuggled through the region to Gaza. Leaked US State Department documents 3 years ago suggested that Sudan was secretly supplying Iranian arms to Hamas in the Gaza Strip." End quote. It will be interesting then to see how this situation develops, because the Bible predicts that the Sudan will be against Israel in the latter days. And so antagonism between the Sudan and Israel is exactly what we expect to see before the return of Jesus Christ to the earth. Now, you don't actually find the word Sudan in the Bible, but you will find the ancient territory of the Sudan called in the Bible Cush. And this word sometimes is translated Ethiopia in the English Bible. In Ezekiel chapter 38, we have recorded for us the great controversy of the nations in the latter days. And in verses 1 to 9, we have recorded a confederacy united together against Israel, which invades from the north. The confederacy is headed up by a leader the Bible calls Gog. And the Bible prophesies of the Jews being defeated and on their last legs before Jesus Christ reveals himself in power and glory and saves them. The Jews will then look on one who they pierced and mourn, a reference to the Lord Jesus Christ. But what's interesting about the prophecy of Ezekiel chapter 38 in relation to the news stories we are looking at today is in verse 5, which mentions some of the nations which are in this confederacy. In verse 5 we read of Persia, that's Iran, Ethiopia and Libya with them. The word translated Ethiopia is the Hebrew Cush, a power which will be antagonistic against Israel before Christ returns. Daniel chapter 11 is another prophecy about the great northern invasion against Israel in the latter days. This prophecy too mentions Cush. It's at verse 42 which says that the northern power will stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. And then in verse 43 it says, but he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. Again, the word translated Ethiopians here is the Hebrew Kushui, and this is one of the many connecting factors between the events described in Ezekiel 38 and the prophecy of Daniel 11. The phrase, shall be at his steps, is a literal rendering which means shall follow in his train, as other versions render it. In other words, it's saying that the Sudanese will be confederate with the northern invader when he attacks Israel. As Bible students, therefore, it's very exciting to see the small details of Bible prophecy coming into the picture. These events might seem almost insignificant to most people, but once Bible prophecy is understood, we cannot help but be amazed at how accurate it is, and how close we must be to the time that the rest of the prophecies will come to pass. Soon, Messiah will indeed return and re-establish God's kingdom. As we see the signs of the times, we are reminded of the proverb, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he, Proverbs 29 verse 18. This verse links having a vision with keeping God's law. And therefore, as we see these signs of the times coming to pass before our very eyes, and the vision of the future coming into focus, we need to ask ourselves, are we happily keeping God's law? Or are we serving ourselves? This has been Matt Davies joining you for another Bible in the News. Join us again next week, God willing.